The fact that 90% of his character for like the first half of the season is the fact that he has a massive. I think that you guys can get the hint. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to be covering part 2 of my American Horror Story series, where I'm going to be discussing the top 7. My last video, I did my bottom 6. If you guys haven't seen that video yet, then like, what are you doing? Like, I'll leave a link in the description right below if you guys want to give that a check out. Anyways, I don't want this intro to be too long, but I'm going to throw this out here now. I have some pretty unpopular takes for some of these rankings. I said it in my last video, so like, just remember, like, my list isn't the definitive list. You have your list, I have my list. In fact, I would love to hear your guys' opinions, or like, even like, maybe in a polite way, I should preface, let me know, like, what about my opinions you thought were wrong, and why, like, why you didn't like the seasons I liked, or why you guys enjoyed the seasons I hated. Like, really, like, I'd love to hear other people's opinions and insights on stuff. And two, like, I just think it's fun to be able to have these chats with each other. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoy this video, and we're going to pick up right where we left off in the last. So without further ado, we're going to go to my 7th ranking. Now this is the part of the video where I feel like I'm going to start losing some people where my list goes from here on down, especially with how some of these seasons rank, because my number 7th place is season 10 double feature. And when I initially saw this season, I hated it with a passion. Like, I was not into it. There was stuff that I enjoyed about it, but I just came off the coattails of that first god-awful season of American Horror Stories, and I was feeling burned by this series. I was so frustrated with Ryan Murphy for how he was handling it. With such a long wait between season 9 and 10, I was able to build up all this anticipation that wasn't really fair to the show in a way, with the way it got pushed back and everything. And I just rewatched it recently, and I actually kind of love it. It has problems, but there's a lot of things I think there are to be able to enjoy about this season, with the first half being this really well done, unnerving story with like an unnerving concept as well. And then the second half essentially just being a really schlocky B movie. And I kind of love that, honestly. I know a lot of people hate that second half. It's one thing that I think I should mention about this season that makes it different from any other season is it's not just one story, it's 2. So essentially this season is 2 seasons of television, and you have Red Tide and Death Valley. And Red Tide, like I said, is very unnerving. I love the storyline. They have this pill that you can take, and if you are naturally creative, it will enhance all that, and you're able to like excel with everything that you're good at. But if you're not given like that creative skill and you take the pill, you become this awful monster that's driven mad by the fact that you're this mundane person. And it's horrifying, because even while watching it, it like made me wonder, like, oh god, like, if I took that pill, like, would I become a monster? Or like, would I be able to excel at my craft? It really does make you wonder if you are essentially like the master of the crafts of the things that you enjoy, or if you're just a washed up hack at the end of the day. And I very much love the casting throughout this season. I think Finn Wittrock does a phenomenal job this season. Very interesting to watch him being this like family man, essentially, who is very frustrated where life has taken him, and the fact that he isn't able to excel in his career the way that he wants, to him taking the pill and having that flip, I think is very well done. I also think the daughter, Ryan Kiera Armstrong, is a very good actress, and I think she does a very good job, especially for a child actress. And a little tidbit that I want to throw out there that I think is so cool is the Razzies. They nominated her for Worst Actress of the Year for Firestarter, which isn't a good movie. We all know that, but also feel like we should all be able to come to a consensus that maybe don't put a child in that position for worst actor of the year and give them a complex. Like, fuck off, Razzies. But anyway, she does a really good job as well, and she is just so like villainous and evil throughout the season, and you love watching her. She's this little bitch, like that's the best way you can describe her. And then you have Lily Rave this season, and we're gonna start a little bit of a countdown here for every tragic character that Lily Rave plays throughout this series. I'm so tired of being here. She plays Doris, and she's an interior decorator, and she wants to excel just like her husband and her daughter, but then she takes the pill and becomes a pale creature, and it's one of the most heartbreaking episodes of the entire series. I love that episode. Not only that, you have this storyline with Sarah Paulson's character, T.B. Karen, who, mind you, I did not like the first time I watched this until that episode, and rewatching it and knowing that episode was coming made TB Karen grow on me a million times more and made me wish we got more of her in the season, because throughout it you have her running through the town and like rejecting the pill and not willing to give up being able to create her art on her own terms and have to hurt people in order to create her heart. As well, you have Macaulay Culkin in this season, who is a very welcome presence if underutilized, and I would very much enjoy for him to come back into the show, into other seasons, instead of just being a stunt cast. I very much enjoyed him, and I think he felt right at home with everybody else in the series. Moving on to Death Valley of this season, it's very much a B horror movie. Like, if you're either gonna love it or you're gonna hate it. Most people hate it, but like, I love the black and white scenes. It feels like you're watching this 50s horror movie. It's very well done. During those black and white scenes, it's like throwing in like all these conspiracy theories at you. And yeah, like they were only written there just so that they could have them and that it sounded cool. And like, to me, it like sounded really fucking cool. And then you flash forward to the present, and I will admit and agree with people that that part is way weaker, like when you're watching it, but I still enjoyed it. I liked following the college students. I found the gay couple in it to be cute. The storyline was fucking weird. The fact that like everybody was pregnant, including the men, but like that's besides the point.
I keep craving weird shit like vanilla yogurt with barbecue chips, but when I eat it, I can't keep it down.
How's your chest?
Like I've been punched in the tits by Tyson. Holy shit. What does that mean?
It means all 4 of us are pregnant.
But one thing, and this is like me jumping off a little bit onto the gay men thing, I was reading the wiki page, and I just loved how to the point they were about their death scene, and I figured I would recite that for you guys so you could enjoy that with me. When Cal goes into labor, Troy encourages him not to tell anyone. They go to the moon landing set, where Troy pulls out a knife he pocketed and performs a C-section. They have a moment of happiness before the baby sprouts tentacles and starts eating off Cal's face, then Troy's. They both die. I just enjoyed how quick and to the point that was. But anyways, what knocks this season furthest back for me is the fact that neither ending is a good ending for either one. In this season, that's 2 seasons, they couldn't get either one right. Both of them feel like apocalyptic, world-ending things that don't really fit into the universe well at all. Especially with Death Valley, it just kind of ends. Like, I even remember the first time I was watching the season that I just kind of sat there confused, like, this doesn't feel like the end of a season. This feels like the end of an episode when you're waiting for the next episode to come out. Like, it doesn't feel like the end. I think that they should have had more episodes this season to properly flesh out both stories instead of just shoehorning everything in last second. And when you read the behind the scenes stuff, especially with like Adina Porter, who was supposed to play a way more prevalent character apparently in Red Tide than what she did, it just pushes the narrative to me that much more that like we needed more time with both of these stories. Hell, I would have enjoyed an entire season of Red Tide. I think that would have been amazing. I don't think Death Valley needed a whole season. I think they could have made one more episode and wrapped that story up just fine. But anyways, that's why this one is as low as it is on the ranking. Now we're going to move on to number 6, which is Freak Show. This is a season that when I first saw it, it was easily one of my favorites. Although, as you can see with where it lands on my list, it has gone back a few paces for me. I think many points of this season are very, very strong, and I'm going to get into all of those. But I do think that there are parts of it that do drag a little bit, and there is some filler that doesn't need to be there, and then it runs a little long. And I also feel like at times it meanders a little bit towards the middle. Aside from all of that, though, there is so many iconic scenes throughout this. It also knows how to throw in Easter eggs and like cameos from other seasons without them feeling forced. Or you're following this traveling freak show in Florida back in, I believe, the 50s. The whole story is very reminiscent of Freaks, the 1930s film. And if you haven't heard of that, don't let black and white like scare you away. Like, that's a phenomenal film and a phenomenal story behind it too. Very interesting, very sad, honestly, too. This entire season is very referential of Freaks. You even have the scene of all of the performers of the sideshow telling Elsa, Jessica Lange's character, that she's one of them, which is a direct like recreation, or it's directly inspired, I would say, by the scene, like by the Gleeble Globble scene in the original film Freaks. You have all these very interesting characters that I would love to see more of. Like, we always see the Coven witches. Like, I want to know how some of these characters are doing that like made it out of this season alive. Honestly, I could understand why they haven't brought it back though, because like even like with Sarah Paulson's character of Bet and Dot, which is easily one of my favorite Sarah Paulson characters, I would probably put that in like my top 2, honestly. Like, I don't know if that's a hot take there, but I love Bet and Dot. I think they're very fun to follow, and I think Sarah Paulson did a really good job of differentiating the two from each other. And then also, I really enjoyed the fact that they didn't just have actors portraying like these sideshow performers that aren't actually sideshow performers and that don't actually have these deformities. I think it's really cool that they brought in other actors as well that actually do have these deformities. Like, very much a standout one for me was Ma Petite, and her story throughout the season is very heartbreaking and hard to watch, especially when you see her go out. Then you have the tall woman, and I very much enjoyed her too. It was cute seeing her play around with Ma Petite. You could feel the sense of community throughout the season. I enjoyed all of that. And then you have this iconic 4 villain that was created this season in Twisty the Clown, and it is super disappointing that he only got like 5 or 6 episodes in the season. I do think they did a good job having Dandy jump in after that, who feels very reminiscent of Patrick Bateman in American Psycho. And even before he jumps in, you see his descent into madness as Dandy, and it leads to one of my favorite finales in the series that's very dark and just hard to watch and very shocking too, where Dandy goes around and just shoots all the freaks at the freak show, and then you have Angela Bassett, the 3-breasted woman, like hiding out in her caravan trying to like not get caught by him. And then when you get to the penultimate scene, you have all of our surviving freaks essentially putting him on display and then killing him while eating popcorn, and it's a very iconic scene, and it felt so earned, and you just enjoy seeing that fucker go down. Like, there's no other way I can put it. And then another thing that like I want to touch on that like I have critiqued for other seasons, but I actually have no critique here because it's not forced in at all. It's very well done, but You have the return of Pepper, who is originally from the second season, Asylum, and she fits into the storyline perfectly. She's not a lead character by any means. She does have a dedicated episode, and that is like one of the better episodes of this season. You already knew the story of Pepper and like how she got to the asylum, but it was another thing to like actually be able to see that story and the way it went down. And it's very much how they should tie in their stories, like when the plot allows it versus just forcing it in there. And two, it was sad that we didn't get Lily Rabe to play a huge character in this season, but I prefer her only having the one episode appearance over playing two different characters this time around. But you have her playing Sister Mary Eunice, who we'll get into later. Spoiler alert, she might be another tragic Lily Rabe character. You very much enjoy seeing the fact that she's in her innocent form. You saw very little of that for Sister Mary Eunice in Asylum because of like what unfortunately ends up happening to her. That's why this one ranks where it's at. Like, it is a very enjoyable season, but on to the next one. Now, here's another war crime, because in 5th place, I am throwing Coven. Though this one is in 5th place, there are characters in this season that I would easily have in my top characters for the entire series. It just doesn't connect with me the same way that it does with everyone else. This season does have a lot of pros to it. It has so many debuts of what would become iconic actors for the series. This is the first season for Angela Bassett, who plays Marie Laveau, and her acting skills bounce off of Jessica Lange's so well. I wish the two of them would have gotten a chance to have more seasons together other than the two. I very much enjoyed their dynamic throughout this whole season. And then you also have Kathy Bates coming into the show as Delphine LaLaurie, and God, she's such a fucking awful woman, but damn, does Kathy Bates portray that character so well. That is easily one of my characters in the entire series. She is such an evil bitch, but damn, does Kathy Bates play that well. And you also have the debut of Emma Roberts as Madison, and I think we can all agree that Ryan Murphy created Scream Queens essentially so that Madison could have her own show, because Madison and Chanel, they might as well be the same person.
Good morning, Slits. I bet you thought you'd seen the last of me.
Throughout this season, though, you have so many iconic quotes from Myrtle, played by Frances Conroy, who I haven't talked about much in this video, which is probably kind of a crime because Frances Conroy is such a phenomenal actress throughout this series. Like, any scene that she's in, even if she has a limited role, she very much eats the screen as Myrtle. She has some of the most iconic wardrobe series. That hair, it is awful, but like amazing in like the most campy way.
Don't be a hater, dear.
She has some of the best quotes that are like so meme worthy and have become memes on their own. And also, we're gonna add another little tick to the Lily Rabe tragic character list here with Misty Day. May she rest in peace. We're just gonna stick with that, even though she came back in Apocalypse, because she wasn't around for how many years? At the end of the day, though, what detracts this season for me is there are subplots in it that just don't flow entirely well, or they go on for too long. I do enjoy the story with Madison, Zoe, and Kyle, but I don't think that we needed that love triangle to go on for the entire season. It also becomes convoluted with other stories that are going on when you have characters literally going to hell and seeing that hell is being trapped in like your worst nightmare essentially for all of eternity. But then you have a conversation between Kyle and Madison where they talk about that there's nothing after death because they both died and came back. It doesn't make sense to have hell be shown in a season, but then also have that, like, I know that's a nitpick, but that's like something that's like always bothered me with this season. Like, I don't know why, but like it very much is something that like annoys me a little bit and could have so easily been fixed. Overall, I would say that Coven is essentially the Mean Girls, Heathers of this series. It's a very good season. It just doesn't rank at the top of my list. Now, coming in at 4th, and this is probably going to be a shocker, is Roanoke. I think this season gets so much more hate than it deserves, but at the same rate too, if you don't like the niche that it's going for, you're not going to like this season. Like, I love mockumentaries, and that's what the first half of this season is a mockumentary. I find that form of horror to be more unnerving and scary, and I think they do a really good job with that. And then I also enjoy the fact that you jump into the second half of the season, which becomes a whole other season as well, and it just turns into camp fun. Like, that's really what it is. Like, for the first 5 episodes, you are following this paranormal show that's essentially like Paranormal Witness, where you have like all these survivors of this ghostly encounter talking about their experience and what they went through, and then they show all the actors reenacting the events of what happened to them. But then you jump to the second half and you have all the actors and like all the actual people in a house together, kind of like Big Brother, and then murder happens. And I think it's really fun too when they start to announce in that second half that like only one person made it out alive. And like, I remember when it was coming out that I was making like all these theories about who I thought it was gonna be and stuff. And like, I think I was like a freshman in high school, and my theories for who I thought it was gonna be was Audrey. Like, don't ask me why, but I was convinced Audrey was gonna make it out. I just loved her too much that she could not die. Like how could you let her die? But obviously, I guess that we go without saying that Sarah Paulson is one of my favorites in this season. I love her playing Shelby in the first half in the reenactments. I think she does a phenomenal job. And then the second half, when she like plays the actress that plays Audrey, she is hilarious throughout it. She has so many quotable moments, and she's just a uppity, campy bitch, and I love it. Since we're speaking of Sarah Paulson playing Audrey, this would lead me into talking about Lily Rabe, who plays Shelby. Let's cue another tragic Lily Rabe character.
Oh my god, poor Shelby! I feel like part of me has died with her, oh my god!
I very much enjoyed her character this season, the journey that she goes on, and she was someone that I was also disappointed when she stopped being in the season, but I think you guys have picked up by now that like I'm just disappointed when Lily Rabe isn't around. And then in this season, like, technically it's not her debut because she had a very small like role in Murder House, but essentially I feel like we can all consider this her debut in the series. Was Adina Porter as Lee, and that's a very iconic character for the series. She's very well fleshed out, and she does a lot of bad things, but you also like understand why she did the things that she did, even if you don't necessarily agree with them. You do, because she's a mother who just didn't want to lose her daughter, and she's like battling all these inner demons, and it led her doing this awful, unforgivable thing. But like at the same rate too, like you kind of get it. Like, she's just a very complex character, and it's very enjoyable watching her throughout the season. But the biggest detractor for me with Roanoke, and I think a lot of people feel the same way, is that final episode. I don't have much love for that at all. Really, the only important thing in that whole episode is the ending, and I have my own problems with that too. It just felt like this episode felt like a bunch of filler. Then it felt like a slap in the face when you have like, I hate when you are watching found footage stuff and then it randomly switches to not being found footage. It's a very cheap way to progress your story when you are trying to hunker down on being a found footage film. You have to stay in that atmosphere. You can't jump away from that and then expect your audience to be okay with it. Even look at that new Paranormal Activity film. Everybody talks about the fact that like there's a couple shots in it that are obviously not found footage they wouldn't be able to shoot with their cameras. They aren't diegetic shots, and I don't like that they did that here. It felt very forced. It felt like they couldn't figure out how to write it into the story, how to have this final part be on camera, and I think they should have tried to figure it out, because it does cheapen the finale for me. And a lot of times when I rewatch this season, I end up skipping the last episode because it kind of annoys me. But other than that, like, this is a very good season. That's why it ranks so high, at least to me anyways. I'm coming in third place, the season that started it all off, Murder House. Now this season, I think, goes without saying that, like, there's so much that was done right here, and whenever I watch it, it's so weird to look at like what humble beginnings like this show came from, and like especially with how different it is now, because the show's always had some kind of camp in it to an extent, but this season, and I would say the earlier seasons, don't rely on the camp as much, and sometimes I think the camp goes off without a hitch, but I do miss these darker toned seasons as well. You have the ensemble cast like used perfectly well here, and for being a debut of like all these actors that we eventually like are going to come to love as the series continues, I think that it's very commendable, and you can very much see like why American Horror Story is still going to this day with like just how strong they started off with. But one thing that like is disappointing to me, and it's not this season's fault, it's just more looking back on everything as a whole, that I really wish Kate Mara and Connie Britton got more seasons than just this one. I mean, it's cool that Connie Britton got a cameo in Apocalypse, like, but I really wish Kate Mara got more than just this season. I would have loved to see her return, because I think she did phenomenal as Hayden. Other things too that I very much enjoyed about this season is like the whole mystery aspect of who like the Rubber Man is, and then when you ultimately find out that it's Hayden, and like again, one of the most iconic scenes in the series, if not the most iconic scene in the entire series for fans. The way that mystery is handled throughout the season is very well done. And the fact that that's not the only twist, that you have the Violet twist as well, where you find out that she's been dead, she's trapped in the house, it's just very well done. We have this amazing ensemble cast, which is every season, but I feel like here it is utilized so perfectly well, because damn near every character that shows up here is so memorable. And then like all of the ghosts in the house have their own personalities, they have their own reasons for why they're there, and they're all like likable or dislikable in their own way, and you just end up loving them. Hands down for me, Moira is probably one of my favorite ghosts in the house, and her backstory with Constance Langdon is very just heartbreaking, and you feel for her character, and it makes me wish that much more that her happy ending came to her at the reunion episode, essentially, in Apocalypse. But I digress. There are many deaths in this series that hit me like a total gut punch, but this season had the very first one with Adelaide's death, when she gets hit by the car in that hit and run accident. She just wants to be a pretty girl for Halloween, and like that whole storyline of seeing Constance trying to drag her to the murder house so that she can be with her friends who are the ghosts, and like she just doesn't make it there in the nick of time, and like it was so hard to watch that. I really don't know whose death I think is sadder, hers or Ma Petite's. Like they both like rank up there for me for like hard ones to watch. One thing that does suck about this season, and again, it's not the season's fault, is it's just how much it's been bastardized by the franchise. And I wouldn't say that Apocalypse bastardized it. Like there's things in Apocalypse that frustrate me. What bastardized it for me was the American Horror Stories episodes that followed it. This season didn't need any more follow-ups, let alone it didn't need any more follow-ups after Apocalypse. The only thing I could have asked for from Apocalypse was to show that the endings did happen for them. But I do think that like we should leave Murder House alone and like let the ghosts go to rest and like be happy with like where it ended at. Personally, let's all agree, let's not tarnish the Murder House legacy any more than like it already has. Now, number 2 on my list for years ranked as number 1, and for very good reason. I think that Asylum outshines Murder House in so many ways. It is the darkest and most depressing season of the entire series, in my opinion, and it has so many different ideas in it that like are thrown together, and they shouldn't work. They really should not work, but somehow they're like able to pull it off so perfectly well. You're dealing with Nazis, you're dealing with zombies, you're dealing with the mental hospital, you're dealing with demons, you're dealing with aliens. Like, there's just so much going on this season, and like saying that out loud, it sounds like it should be like a hindrance to the story, but like they managed to be able to pull it off and like make everything like essentially like just thread together like perfectly. This is hands down my favorite Jessica Lange performance in the entire show. You have Sister Jude, who starts out as this like pillar who of the asylum, who runs the entire place with an iron fist, but then eventually she ends up getting thrown into said asylum, and you watch her descent into madness. Her performance during all this is heartbreaking as well, and to yet another iconic scene for the series, like when you see her go to shock therapy and she comes out of it, she doesn't even remember her name, and then all of a sudden in her like maddened delusion that was like thrust upon her, she starts singing the name game. What normally would feel like a very campy scene in other seasons feels just unnerving in this season, and it just goes to show like how dark the tone is throughout it. And then you have my all-time favorite Lily Rabe character here in Sister Mary Eunice, who starts out as a sweet, innocent nun, and then she gets possessed by a demon and has to do all these like godforsaken things throughout the season, and she's running around fucking and murdering everyone and going against like every moral standard that like Sister Mary Eunice has. And I think you guys have seen far enough into this video, you know what this leads into. But when you finally get to her downfall even, and you see that she accepts death, it's so heartbreaking. And that's like the best way I can describe the season. I keep saying it over and over again, is that like it's a very heartbreaking season. It's just sad. Like almost every character doesn't get a happy ending. I mean, you really only have one character walk away from this season by the end, in Lana Winters, who is such an iconic character for the entire show. Like, I love Sarah Paulson's portrayal of her, seeing her getting forced into the asylum and eventually escaping, and then having to go through the whole ordeal with Bloody Face, which is another amazing storyline in this season that I didn't mention earlier. You got your own like little serial killer plot in here too, in this season that's already filled with all this stuff, but like I said, for some reason it just works. The way she plays that character and like ends up getting like the fuck you when she like escapes the asylum and like is essentially able to give the middle finger to like Bloody Face before she dips out, and then seeing her like grow into becoming this proclaimed reporter by the end of the season and taking back her power.
He's escaping! The killer is escaping! Help me!
It's just a very good season. Like I said, the longest time it was number 1 on my list, but upon other rewatches of another season that I haven't gotten to yet, it did fall back one slot. But I guess saying that, we should jump into like what came in number 1 for me on the list. Coming in first place, and I have never seen anyone else put this here, so I am definitely on an island by myself, I think, is 1984. This season is everything that I love about horror. It's everything that I love about the newer seasons of American Horror Story. I love the 80s homage to slasher movies. It's such a love letter to the genre. I love the campy performances throughout it. Like, there's just so much that I enjoy about this season, and there is very, very few things that throw me off that I don't like. And whenever I rewatch it, it's always welcome. There's never a part of it where I want to tap out. Like, once I start rewatching 1984, I'm finishing 1984. I might even end up binging it, even though I've already seen it. Like, I just enjoy it that much. I've always been a sucker for slashers, especially 80s slashers, and I love the summer camp setting for this. And two, another thing that I enjoy about this season is the fact that it almost feels like a horror franchise in many ways. You have your first few episodes that take place over the course of one night, and it's essentially watching this like extended slasher flick. Then you have your second half, which feels like the follow-up sequel to said first movie. Like, and honestly, if they made a third one, I don't think I would complain much about that. In this season, when I was saying about the 80s love letter to horror and all of that, you have a direct reference to Pamela Voorhees in this season through the likes of Lavina Richner, whose son died. Then you have her running around like Pamela Voorhees, killing everybody at the camp, just like in Friday the 13th. It's just all these little homages that I love so much. And to Billie Lourd as Montana is such a fun character. She's such a badass bitch. Like, hands down, this is my favorite Billie Lourd character all time. Just iconic, 100% iconic immediately. Then you have Leslie Grossman playing our titular slasher killer this season, and her reveal is predictable, and normally that would piss me off so much, but she is such a fun character to watch, seeing her going from this Bible thumping bitch to this like crazy killer that drops all these hilarious as fuck one-liners, especially in the second half when she drops the Bible thumper and just owns up to being a killer. Like, it's just fun to watch.
I know people look at Spawn Ranch and think that's a bad place, but today little children frolic and eat funnel cake on the same ground where Manson plotted the murders. Now, I can't change what happened there, but you know what makes Spawn Ranch better? Spawn Ranch with a Ferris wheel.
This season too, you have the addition of Angelica Ross, and she does a phenomenal job as well. I loved her as Nurse Rita. I think that character is so much fun, and she's one of those characters where she's doing awful things, but by the end of it, I feel like she's able to redeem herself, and you're rooting for her, and you want her to be a final girl right along with Brooke by the end of the season. And then another casting too that I want to mention, and it makes me disappointed that he's only in this season, is Matthew Morrison. Like, I loved him in Glee, and he is so much fun in this season. And the fact that 90% of his character for like the first half of the season is the fact that he has a massive I think that you guys can get the hint. But he's a very fun character too, and he ends up having a love story with Montana, which I found very rootable as the season progressed and like went on, and like I wanted the two of them to be together. The only thing that feels like a downside to me in some ways for this season is the Richard Ramirez story. I do enjoy the plot of him. I enjoy the character, but I don't enjoy the fact that they used Richard Ramirez for that. I think the way that they did the story with him anyways, they could have easily made him a fictional character. Even if he was just inspired by Richard Ramirez, I don't think I would have had much of a problem with that. But the fact that they made him somebody to be able to like fangirl over, and that like people could cut clips of and make gifs of to post on Tumblr and like write fan fiction about, like, can we just stop glamorizing serial killers? Like, they could have easily fictionalized that. That's, for me, that's the only thing in this season that's a drawback. And then the finale, it does something that I normally hate with a passion in AHS that I think is very rarely done right is they'll do a time jump to like all these years later to like ram everything together last minute. But this season, it didn't feel forced in any way to me. It felt like a well-earned happy ending. Like, I know that I bitched about the happy ending in Hotel, but you had this season with Hotel that like didn't know how to juggle being dark, being comedic, and then it had its last episode jump into like just so much camp and then randomly going happy versus this season was camp from the get-go. It wasn't taking itself serious. It was having fun. And I think it paid off to that ending as well and made it well earned because by the end of it, you enjoy so many of these characters and you want to see them happy and you want to see the bad guys lose. When you see like Mr. Jingle's son like go to the camp to like go find his father because he's a ghost there that's like been trying to protect him for all these years, and then he gets his little family reunion with like Mr. Jingles and then like Lily Rabe's character. Then the rest of the cast also comes out, and then you have Montana spout that line about like never forgetting the 80s. It's just it made me like cry just a little bit back in high school. Like, I don't know if something like that will make me now, but like it just felt like such a happy ending, and I was just so happy about all of it. And I really wish that more people felt the love for this season that I felt for it. But like, that's okay too. I don't mind being on an island sometimes.
But don't forget us. Tell our ghost stories to your children and we'll live on forever. The 80s will never die.
That has been my ranking for American Horror Story. How I ranked all 13 installments. I didn't rank each individual season for American Horror Stories, but they would have all been at the bottom anyways. So I was saving myself the hassle there a little bit. But I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you want to see more content like this, future rankings, let me know. Like, I'm all about horror, so anything I'm down with it. If you guys got requests for like movies or shows that you want me to check out, feel free to leave a comment right down below. And if you liked the video, leave a like. Subscribe if you want to see more stuff from me. I'd love to have you guys back. But anyways, this has been Justice, and see you on the next one. Take care.